Quick pause before we unleash the crossover. Hit subscribe if you want to see more what-ifs that collide universes like Marvel and Warhammer. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start with the dead tier, because honestly, some of these heroes are walking into their own execution. First up, Hawkeye lands squarely in this category. Clint Barton might be the world's greatest archer, but in a universe where standard infantry carry weapons that can melt through tank armor, a bow and arrow setup is laughably obsolete. His peak human conditioning means nothing when facing space marines who can bench press motorcycles and shrug off rocket launcher hits. The moment he draws his bowstring against a chaos cultist with a laser gun, he's getting turned into a smoking crater. Even worse, his moral compass would get him killed faster than his primitive weaponry. Hawkeye would try to save civilians, protect innocents, maybe rally some resistance against Imperial oppression. The commissars would execute him for sedition before he finished his first inspirational speech. In 40K, questioning authority equals heresy, and heresy equals death by flamethrower. Clint's greatest asset, his humanity, becomes his fatal weakness in a galaxy that considers compassion a luxury nobody can afford. Black Widow slides into dead tier as well, though for different reasons. Natasha Romanoff is arguably the most skilled spy and assassin on Earth, but the Imperium has dealt with infiltrators before. Their paranoia runs so deep they invented 20 different ways to detect shapeshifters, mind readers, and anyone else trying to blend in. Servo skulls patrol every important facility. Psychic nulls can sense deception. Gene scanners verify genetic purity. Her greatest skills become meaningless when every door requires biometric verification, and every conversation gets monitored by floating robot skulls. The Inquisition would peg her as a potential chaos agent within hours of arrival. Her lack of Imperial documentation, her suspicious combat training, and her obvious foreign origins would trigger every red flag in their system. They'd drag her to the nearest interrogation chamber and extract every secret from her mind before feeding her to a servitor conversion facility. All that espionage expertise means nothing when your opponents assume everyone is guilty until proven otherwise. Moving into hates it tier, we find Captain America drowning in moral anguish. Steve Rogers represents everything the Imperium claims to protect, but actively destroys. Freedom, individual rights, standing up for the little guy. All of that gets you branded a dangerous radical in the 41st millennium. The Imperium demands absolute obedience to the God Emperor, not speeches about liberty and justice for all. Steve would spend every waking moment horrified by the systematic oppression he'd be expected to enforce. His super soldier serum presents its own problems. Genetic enhancement not sanctioned by the Emperor himself counts as heresy, making Steve a walking blasphemy in the eyes of Imperial doctrine. The Adeptus Mechanicus would want to vivisect him to understand his augmentations. The Inquisition would assume he's been tainted by chaos. His shield might deflect bolter rounds, but it can't protect him from an entire galaxy that considers his very existence an affront to the natural order. Steve could technically survive by joining the Imperial Guard and keeping his mouth shut about democracy and human rights. He'd hate every order, despise every atrocity he's forced to witness, and slowly lose his mind watching good people die for the crime of thinking independently. The man who once said he could do this all day would spend his nights praying for death to end his suffering. Falcon joins Steve in the hates it category, though his problems are more practical than philosophical. Sam Wilson's flight suit and drone companion would immediately mark him as possessing unsanctioned technology. The Adeptus Mechanicus considers unauthorized innovation a form of tech heresy, punishable by immediate lobotomization. His wings might let him soar above battlefields, but they also paint a target on his back for every Imperial official who spots him. Sam's military background could earn him a spot in the Imperial Guard, assuming he survives the initial purge of his illegal equipment. He'd find himself assigned to suicide missions, leading desperate charges against impossible odds while commissars stand behind his troops with bolt pistols, ready to execute anyone who retreats. Every flight would be his last, unless specifically authorized by commanders who view him as expendable. The psychological toll would crush him eventually. Sam became Falcon to help people, to make a difference, to stand alongside heroes fighting for justice. In 40K, he'd be another cog in a war machine that devours hope and spits out corpses. His wings would carry him over burning cities filled with innocent dead, knowing that questioning orders means joining them in mass graves. The Survives tier brings us some genuinely tough cases who might actually make it through the meat grinder, though they'd be scarred beyond recognition. War Machine fits this category perfectly. James Rhodes already understands military hierarchy, follows orders without question, and his armor technology could potentially be reverse engineered by the Adeptus Mechanicus. They'd strip away his advanced AI systems and replace them with crude machine spirits, turning his sleek suit into a clunky servitor hybrid monstrosity. Rhodey would become a walking weapons platform for the Imperial Guard, trudging through trenches while his butchered armor wheezes and coughs like an asthmatic tank. His pilot training would earn him a spot in the Aeronautica Imperialis, assuming they don't decide his flight suit constitutes tech heresy. He'd survive because he knows how to take orders and kill efficiently, but every day would strip away another piece of his humanity until nothing remains but a broken soldier following commands. The real tragedy lies in his loyalty. Rhodey joined the military to protect people, to serve something greater than himself. In 40K, that noble instinct gets weaponized into blind fanaticism. He'd find himself bombing civilian populations because some inquisitor detected heretical thoughts in the local population. His conscience would scream in protest, but his training would force compliance. Survival means becoming everything he once fought against. Black Panther presents a fascinating case for the survives tier. T'Challa possesses enhanced physical abilities, advanced technology, and the tactical brilliance of a seasoned ruler. His vibranium suit could withstand most Imperial weapons, and his combat skills rival those of Space Marine scouts. The problem lies in his independence and moral code. The Imperium doesn't tolerate kings who refuse to kneel before the God Emperor. T'Challa would likely end up as a rogue trader, one of those semi-independent merchants who explore the galaxy's fringes with official Imperial sanction. His diplomatic experience and natural leadership would serve him well in negotiations with alien species, assuming he can stomach the Imperium's genocidal policies toward non-humans. He'd walk a tightrope between maintaining his principles and staying alive, making compromises that would haunt him for centuries. The vibranium in his suit would fascinate the Adeptus Mechanicus, who'd either try to study it or declare it blasphemous alien technology. T'Challa would need to guard his secrets carefully, while pretending loyalty to an empire he despises. His survival depends on political maneuvering and staying valuable enough that the Inquisition overlooks his suspicious foreign origins. Doctor Strange slides into this category despite his immense power, because in 40K, magic equals damnation. Every spell Stephen casts draws energy from the warp, that hellish dimension where chaos gods feast on mortal souls. His mastery of the mystic arts would mark him as the most dangerous kind of heretic, a rogue psyker capable of tearing holes in reality itself. The moment he conjures his first portal, every Inquisitor in the sector would mobilize to hunt him down. Strange might survive by joining the Grey Knights, those legendary space marines who specialize in fighting demons. His knowledge of otherworldly threats could prove invaluable against chaos incursions, assuming he can convince them he's not already corrupted. The irony cuts deep though, because using his powers to fight evil would slowly transform him into the very thing he opposes. The warp corrupts everyone eventually, and Stephen's vast magical knowledge makes him particularly susceptible to chaos whispers. He'd spend every moment fighting a two-front war, battling external demons while struggling against the darkness growing in his own soul. His medical training might earn him respect among Imperial forces, but his magical abilities would keep him under constant surveillance. One slip, one moment of weakness, and the Grey Knights would put a bolt round through his skull without hesitation. Now, we reach the Thrives tier, where things get genuinely interesting. These heroes don't just survive the grim darkness, they flourish in it like twisted flowers blooming in radioactive soil. Frank Castle, the Punisher, was practically designed for this universe. His complete disregard for due process and civil liberties aligns perfectly with Imperial justice. Frank would become the Inquisition's favorite executioner, a zealot who burns heretics with the same cold efficiency he once used against mob bosses. The Imperium would love having someone who asks no questions, shows no mercy, and never hesitates to pull the trigger. Frank's psychological profile matches their ideal commissar perfectly. He'd stand behind Imperial Guard formations with a bolt pistol, executing anyone who shows signs of cowardice or doubt. His reputation would spread across entire sectors as soldiers whisper about the grim enforcer who never smiles and never misses. Frank would finally find purpose in this nightmare galaxy. Every heretic he burns validates his worldview that mercy equals weakness. Every planet he helps purge proves that extreme violence solves problems. The Punisher would thrive because Warhammer 40K rewards his darkest impulses while giving them noble justification. He'd become a legend among the Imperium's enforcers, the skull-faced angel of death who brings the Emperor's justice to the unworthy. Ghost Rider presents an even more terrifying prospect for the Thrives category. Johnny Blaze's flaming skull and supernatural powers would either get him worshipped as a minor demon or recruited by the ecclesiarchy as a living saint. His ability to judge souls and punish the guilty aligns perfectly with Imperial doctrine, assuming they can overlook his demonic appearance. The Spirit of Vengeance would find endless work in a galaxy where everyone commits sins worth burning for. So there you have it, our complete breakdown of how Earth's mightiest heroes would fare in the grim darkness of the far future. From Hawkeye getting vaporized by his first laser gun encounter to the Punisher becoming the Inquisition's poster boy for righteous violence, we've seen how the 41st millennium sorts the wheat from the chaff in the most brutal way possible. The pattern becomes crystal clear when you step back and look at the bigger picture. Heroes who rely on hope, compassion, and moral absolutes get chewed up and spat out like ammunition in a bolter magazine. Meanwhile, those comfortable with violence, paranoia, and moral flexibility find themselves right at home among the Emperor's finest. It's a twisted mirror that shows us exactly what kind of universe Warhammer 40K really is.